Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit, Friday, May 24th. And did anything happen this week? I was going to cancel the show because it just seemed like a slow week for us at WAC.
It's
What do you
just
think?
really slow week, it was like just really boring. So I didn't see anything
Yeah.
fun.
It looks like you're reporting from the inside of a federal penitentiary. Did Gary Gensler, was he able to lock you up or what?
Funnily enough, we were actually joking this week about how, one scene of the arrest warrant start going up. Then I might be one of the first people from the community who gets arrested. Yeah,
Yeah. So you're picking out jail cells now? Just,
yeah,
maybe a corner suite?
yeah. I've heard some good things about some different federal penitentiaries. So I'm just going and touring them and trying to pick out the one that suits me.
Funny.
Yeah.
Well, we had some news yesterday, and maybe we want to talk about it. What do you think?
The real news was on Monday, but yeah, that
Yeah.
changed the whole game. It was quite
Yes. So if you've been living under a rock, James Seifert here tweets, "Boom, approved. That's it. SEC just approved spot ETFs. What a turn of events! It's really happening." So if we get into some of the details, there's two parts to the approval. So they approved yesterday the 19, what is it?
4B.
Yeah, 19B-4. Yeah.
TV
So that is to allow the ETFs to be on the New York Stock Exchange and other exchanges. And the second part is the S1, and those are the individual applications for each applicant, like BlackRock, Fidelity, and that includes like what's a prospectus look like. Here's the financial information that investors would be able to review. And that's going to take some more time, likely weeks. It says here, James goes on to say, typically this process takes months, like up to 5 months in some examples. Eric Balchunas, and I think this will be at least somewhat accelerated. Bitcoin ETFs were at least 90 days. We'll know more soon. So it's probably going to be several weeks, maybe a couple months or more until we actually have ETFs trading on the exchanges.
The best timeline that I've seen says it will happen in 2 weeks, but I think that's too optimistic. Most people are saying somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks, and then there's a few people who are saying that it's going to be longer than that, like in a few months, basically. But the fact is, what happened this week and yesterday means it's pretty much done. Like the ETFs are approved. Like you don't go back from this stage and kind of deny the S1s. Like it's done now. So it's pretty amazing. Like one of the key things to pay attention to is that this has been approved as a commodity, not as a security. So that removes any ambiguity about ETH status as what kind of token it is, and it's really wonderful that we've gotten this regulatory clarity about ETH and Ethereum that we were lacking for a really long time and that people really wanted. Because the side effect of that, of course, is that we get these ETF listings and they'll go live very soon. And once they go live, then we start seeing what happens with that. I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. This is a long time coming. Now, we're going to get into some of the politics of this. I don't know if it's in this next slide. Well, let's talk about one other thing was the approval came from the Division of Trading and Markets and on delegated authority. So some people made some comments about that. It wasn't actually a board vote like we had with the Bitcoin ETFs, but as James goes on to say here, making decisions via delegated authority is the norm. This is how things are typically done. If the SEC required an official vote on every decision, it'd be insane. We don't know where, I guess we won't have an official record of hey, did Gary vote yes? In this case, we'll never know because it was delegated to the lower division. So in case you were wondering, it was a 3-2 vote. Didn't happen this time.
Yeah, I think with Bitcoin, it's symbolic because it was the first one to find. I think another side effect is that Gary Gensler was really pissed off. I don't think he wanted to approve this. I don't think he wanted anything to do with this. From what I'm hearing, as recently as last week, the applicants thought everything was getting rejected, There are a few little like small conspiracies going around. Like Ethereum launched on Monday with their ETH securities offering, and that was the stepping stone towards calling ETH security on Thursday and rejecting it all. And I think that's when Gary would have come out and done like his little victory lap and gone on the talk shows and said Ethereum is blah 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 and we're protecting our investors blah blah blah. But the fact is that all the political environment has changed in the last couple of weeks, like really fast, like neck breakingly quickly, and because of that, I think he's angry. Like his whole thesis has kind of fallen apart these last few weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear from Gary for another few days or weeks at least about this.
Yeah. I got a feeling that the political winds have changed in Washington, and now, and that's going to take us into our next slide. So Eric Balchunas says, for anyone wondering why our odds were low up until yesterday, see below. This was a shock, a holy shit moment yesterday, even for people inside the process. That said, props to Jay Cipher for convincing me to stick with the 25% floor. So there's some talk like from folks who are pushing it, and even our friend Anthony Sassano is like, well, of course, what would be the legal basis to deny it? And I don't think it has anything to do with legal, because people sue each other all the time when they have a flimsy case. The SEC has had a history now of just guns blazing. We're going after everybody. We don't care how weak the case is. We're just going to stop this industry. And who cares if we tangle them up for a couple of years in litigation? That's the point.
Yeah.
And what changed, it wasn't the facts that changed in the applications. It was, I think it's completely political. I think the Biden campaign, they're working through all the data and the numbers. They see they're behind in almost all the swing states. And these swing states are going to be decided by a very slim margin of voters. And if they see, hey, wow, look at all these 30-year-olds who 60% of them voted for Biden last time. And now these guys are only we're only getting 30% because crypto is important to them. And that could be a few thousand votes in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or Michigan. So someone picked the phone up last week, and this is evidenced by Senator Schumer. He voted yes for the SAB 121. And that's the majority leader in the United States Senate voted yes and went against the Biden administration. I think that was a major signal. I think it came from folks, within the campaign to say, vote as you please. We're not going to veto this. We need to get on board here. We're off sides. And if that means a few thousand votes in Pennsylvania, then we need that few thousand votes. I don't think this has anything to do with legal. The facts of whether ETH was a security or was there correlations between the futures market and none of that mattered. They were going to deny this until Trump came out. He said, hey, I'm pro crypto. He starts taking campaign contributions and crypto. And they look at the numbers and they see younger voters in these swing states where we need to do something. That's it. To me, it's completely political. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree with you. Like, I feel like that chain of events with this one first with the House, where Democrats, only a small number of Democrats voted. In the Senate, huge number of Democrats voted in line with the Republicans through, including Schumer, and that was a bill that said bill, and even then the Democrats vote for this important. And then the consequence of that, like you said, recently all of that stuff really led to a snowball effect of where we are right now. And where we are right now is the ETH ETF has been approved. And also we have a second major piece of crypto legislation going through the Congress right now. And that is what we're going to be talking about next. So why don't you start with that?
Yep. Yeah. So it's been a great week for crypto. We got the ETH ETF approval. no, pardon me, we also have Fit 21. So this was a piece of legislation that has been worked on for the last couple of years um, by Patrick McHenry from the Financial Services Committee in the United States House. It came out of the committee with bipartisan support. It went to the floor of the House for a full House vote, and it was approved 279 to 136, with 71 Democrats voting in favor. That is a major accomplishment, especially in such a polarized Congress where almost nothing gets done, where everything is just party line vote. There
Yeah.
was 71 Democrats who voted in favor of this bill. So what is the Fit 21? Basically, it creates a framework for crypto, what's going to be regulated by the Security Exchange Commission and what's going to be regulated by the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission, CFTC. It defines what decentralization is. So it creates some parameters and some clarity finally for the industry. And congrats to the Patrick McHenry and it's really nice to see 71 Democrats cross the aisle and vote for this. This is more than triple, as this Alex Thorne says here. It's more than triple what the SAB 121 got in terms of Democratic support.
Yep.
And so right now, SAB 121 is sitting on Biden's desk. He has a few more days to either sign it, to veto it, or to not sign it at all or do nothing. If he does nothing by default, it will become law. If he vetoes it, obviously it goes back. So we'll see on that. But on this will now, the Fit 21 goes to the Senate for consideration. I'm assuming it's going to be passed. He had such Democratic support in the House. I expect that the Senate will pass it as well. Perhaps there's a couple tweaks to it in negotiations between chambers, but this looks really favorable for crypto. What do you think?
Okay, so yeah, that is all great, Pat, but I think there's some nuance to some of those positions that we were just talking about. So the first one is about the bill getting, the SAB 121 bill getting passed or not. So there is such a thing called a pocket veto that the president holds, and it's acted in a really specific circumstance where the president doesn't sign the bill. Normally, when the president doesn't sign the bill, it still becomes law, but that's provided Congress is in session. The problem is that Congress is not in session next week, so there is a chance that the not signing part will happen when Congress is not in session, and if that happens, then the bill is vetoed through something called a pocket veto. Now, I'm hearing that there's some further nuance to that, in that the Congress didn't actually send the bill to Biden until Wednesday, and if that's the case, then Congress will be back in by the time the 10 days are up. However, if Congress sent the bill to Biden as soon as it passed the Senate, in that case, it might fall under that pocket veto period. So that's something to pay attention to.
Yep.
With this Fit 21 bill as well, there's some nuance here as well, in that some people said that this bill was going to pass the House because the Democratic Party told the representatives that they're not going to be whipped for this. They can vote however they please. However, in the Senate, from what I understand, I don't know if this is going to work or not, the Senate Democrats were supposedly going to vote as a bloc against this. And that's one of the reasons why so many Democrats in the House were able to come out and vote for this, is because there was nothing for them to lose, in a sense. And they can signal to the crypto bros that, hey, we're all good with crypto, but they knew that the law wasn't going to pass. So that might there might be some nuance there as well. I don't know how that's going to play out, but we'll have to wait until it gets to the Senate. Of course, like I said, it's not going to the Senate today, which is Friday, and next week Congress is out of session, so it will be the week after next where it might or might not go to the Senate, and then we'll get an idea what's happening in the Senate. Now, again, there's always complexities to this. So Cynthia Lummis, who's a senator, said that she thinks there's enough support for this bill in the Senate for it to pass. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. But like you said, this is a landmark piece of legislation for the crypto industry, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens next.
Yeah. So even some more nuance to the pocket veto is they can go out of session, but if they're not technically out of session if they appoint an agent.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
one rep to kind of stick around to say, well, the rest of us are back home, but this one person is our point of contact. So
yeah,
technically we're still in session. They could play
exactly.
all these like legislative games.
Yep.
It's a little bit above my pay grade.
Yeah.
We'll find out, I guess, soon enough, right?
Yeah.
Whether
Exactly.
it's a pocket veto or whatever.
Yeah. So the original deadline was supposed to be on Tuesday next week, but it depends on when they sent the bill to Biden. And if they sent the bill last week, sorry, just a couple of days ago, then it'll be the following week when Congress is in session. So there's all these like always, there's political games being played here that are way
Yeah.
above our pay grade. But hey, like it makes for interesting drama always.
Sure. One thing, so Ron Hammond pointed out here on this post that 71 Democrats and nearly all Republicans, good policy wins again. And, I'm looking at this list. So on a personal note, I reached out to my representative who's on this list, actually.
Nice. That's so cool.
So my rep voted against SAB 121. Now, my rep is literally new. He joined just a couple of weeks ago. We had a special election because our prior rep resigned a few months ago to take another job. And so we had a special election. And this rep, I've met him a few times. And when he sees me, whack, he's just your typical politician. I mean, he literally smacks me on the back. Hey buddy, hey chief, how you doing? And I'm like, oh my god, would you please stop? It's so fake. I can't stand him, to be honest. But I reached out to his office. I said, hey, we should vote for Fit 21, and lo and behold, he did. So I'm laughing. I was like, was that because I called his office or what? But who knows? But I want to tell folks. Oh, go ahead.
You need to call back his office back again and say thank you for voting this way. I think Jasper in our Rocket Pool community has definitely gotten the political massaging down to an art. I think he actually calls his representatives every week and just kind of talks to them about things that are going on in his mind. So he's always encouraging people to call the politicians and stuff. And it's definitely something that we need to do much better. The fact that they voted in the way that you want, I think then you kind of reinforce that positive action with a little bit of praise. And I think that is classical conditioning. You're getting it done. So get those politicians conditioned to vote in your favor, definitely.
Yeah. So I have a couple of friends. They were staffers for Senator Schumer for a while, and they've told me for years, if you calls make a difference. They keep track. So there might be an intern who answers the phone, but they have a tally list that goes up the chain every single day about what people are calling the office about, and they're at least Senator Schumer and their office, they're very attuned to that. So it does matter, on these things.
Yeah.
Who knows? I called. Maybe I was the only person in the whole district who called, but maybe they said, "Oh, well, if one person called, that must mean there's 1,000 others out there in the district who do support, who didn't." Who knows? But it does make a difference. So on these important legislative issues for crypto, when they come up, as Jasper, he's been doing, you just make a quick call and let them know. You might even get a voicemail. It doesn't matter. These calls matter. They really do. It sounds old fashioned, but they pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
Yep. Speaking of Jasper, he did a breakdown of the Fit 21, and it was really well received on Twitter. So he writes, short thread on most important aspect of the Fit 21 bill, the 5-pronged decentralization test to determine whether or not an asset is a digital commodity. Expect all protocols with goals of decentralizing to be paying very close attention to this test. And he breaks it down into, I think there's five different conditions, Whack. And then he was applying it to Rocket Pool, and how would Rocket Pool fit within this framework? Would you break it down from there?
Yeah. So, like you said, there's 5 prongs, and these include things like how distributed is the token, who directs the work that's being done in the protocol, and where is the inflation going, and a bunch of other things as well. And for a few of these things, Rocket Pool's fine in terms of like token distribution, vote distribution. We're working ever closer more towards the team's work being directed by the community. So these are all really good things. There are a couple of things for Rocket Pool, like we still have a Guardian wallet, which is a no-no under this. And there's one more thing. I'm sorry, it's slipping my mind right now, which is one of the things that
Oh,
is a
the
no-no as well.
DAO, the
The
DAO
Dow
can't be
inflation. Yeah,
right.
inflation. Yeah, sorry, the Dow inflation. Yeah, that's right. So basically the IMC, the GMC, the PDAO, we all get aspect, and the ODAO as well gets aspects of inflation, and that is technically a no-no under this. Inflation can go towards like liquidity mining or other such incentives, but not paying out people directly. So I think we're going to have to try to figure out like what is going on with that. People have already kind of like tried to think of some workarounds through this legislation of how we might be able to make a wrapper token, and then that wrapper token accrues value against the RPL, and blah blah blah. So at the moment, we're still thinking some ideas. But the way what happens is this bill sets up a framework of like there being securities, and then there being like restricted securities, and then there being commodities, and it's
Right.
kind of like a spectrum. And basically, to get the full benefits of being a commodity, you have to meet all five prongs of this test. And sadly, the vast majority of crypto protocols do not meet the five prongs of this test because of either concentration of tokens, concentration of voting, or other things like that. And I think right now is when these teams need to start thinking about the five prongs in this test, and other communities need to start thinking about it and start acting in a way that will get them to that, fulfilling all five prongs of the test, because the benefits of being a commodity are huge, and the punishments of being a security are, well, not punishments necessarily, but there's no benefits for it. Like you don't get like any help basically from the CTFC, because that's one of the things that is going to happen here, right? It's like the security, the protocols that meet the prongs will be regulated by the CTFC. The ones that don't meet the prongs will be regulated by the SEC. So we're still figuring out how it's going to go, but Rocket Pool as a protocol hopefully isn't too far away. And there's no mention of LSTs in here as well. So we're really hoping that as long as the LSTs meet the same criteria, then we should be fine. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes.
Right. And if this becomes law, I think the bigger thing is that there's certainty now. Okay, here's the rules. There's the five prongs, and now
Yeah,
teams can work towards that. There's no uncertainty. There's clarity, and I think that's what has held the industry up a lot. Is what do they want us to do? And we have to all this conjecture to figure out, are we legally compliant? And then they pay law firms really lots of money to figure out, are we compliant? And they're like, well, we can be more conservative or we can be more aggressive. That is eliminated with this. So
yeah,
even if there's a couple things like Rocket Pool, for example, has to change, we would know exactly what we need to do.
yeah, exactly.
And clarity, and then team that, we can put our brains together and figure it out.
Yeah,
Okay, on to the next thing. The last piece of legislation that passed, Tom Emmer, he's a majority whip, and he sponsored the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act, he calls it. Basically, it would state that the Federal Reserve does not have the authority to create a digital dollar. Only Congress would have that power. And it passed the House. It had 3 Democratic votes. So it had bipartisan support, not as much as the FIT 21. So this will now go down to the Senate, and we'll see where that goes. But all in all, WAC, we got 3 major items this week. Is probably the best week in crypto ever in terms of in the United States. There seems to be a sea change. It
yeah,
seems overall that this anti-crypto army and the Liz Warren being in charge of these financial matters, these days are either coming to an end or are over or are severely changed.
yeah,
And probably because of the election, it's 2024, and things
exactly.
change.
Yeah,
But that overall, great week. What do you think? Do you have any
absolutely. Yeah, it goes
summary?
without saying that this has been a truly monumental week for crypto, and there's hopefully really good things ahead because of this.
Yeah. Well, let's see what did it for prices. Okay. Well, what does this mean for my portfolio? Well, ETH, you can see this God candle. This was on Monday, I think,
Yeah,
if
Monday.
I'm
Yeah,
right. All right. I think it went up over 20%. I think the definition of a God candle is over 20%. Would that be fair?
I guess.
Well,
I think even like people were settling for like 10%, but like 20% in one candle. So this one candle actually represents the biggest single increase in ETH market cap in one daily candle. So it was 70 billion, I think, or 70 something billion increased in one candle in one day, and that was the market cap of Solana. Basically, Ethereum increased by the market cap of Solana in one day, which is pretty amazing. I
yeah,
was really
that is
hoping that
crazy.
another one of these yesterday, but sadly we might have to wait a few days before we get another one of these.
Yeah, I think when I woke up this morning, it looks like the markets are all down a little bit. Could be some other macro news. I did not have time to check, but and we retraced a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, we're right. You know, we that top of that God candle was, we'll say, 36.88, and right now we're at 37.08. So we're a little bit above where that God candle. We pumped up
Yeah.
to over 3,900 on the
39.50.
23rd.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're down a little bit, down to about 3,700 or so.
Yeah.
I think we should realize that these ETFs, might get a short-term bump, but it's the long-term impact of them. You got to be thinking a long-term horizon.
Yeah.
These are going to take, it may take a few months for these to get onto the actual market and start getting inflows. It's going to take some time for them to get into people's 401k plans. It's going to take some time for them to get into a point where financial advisors, where there's trillions of dollars tied up with people's personal finances, they start recommending them to their clients. And then you have these monthly inflows as people dollar cost average. This is
Yeah.
a long-term thing. It's going to be really beneficial, but don't expect us to go from 3,700 to 10,000 by Memorial Day or by June 1st, right?
I
It's
think
not going to happen.
there was some hype around this whole process, saying that if the ETF got approved, then ETH would basically gain even more than this because so many people were offside, so many people were in a bad position regards to like the wider crypto market and stuff. And I agreed with that, and I was hopeful of that. And sadly, that didn't quite transpire so far. So I think that like we were victims of our own hype basically, and our own expectations, which often is the case, right? With that disappointment that comes. So even though we got this amazing week, in every regard, some people are still disappointed. Which, yeah, that's just the way things
Yeah,
go. Yeah,
that's the way it is. I mean, look at though. I mean, if we look at May 20th, we're at just over 3,000, and now we're over 3,700 in
yeah,
just less than a week.
yeah,
I'll take that any day. It's really great.
absolutely.
Let's see where RPL is. We are at in dollar terms, we're $22.59. Actually, we're up over 3%, whereas ETH is down 3%. So the ratio had a little should have a little bump in there. It's up 2% over the last 24 hours. Currently, the ratio is at 0.00588. So the ratio took a hit. We were at 0.06, we're at 0063 about a week ago. So now we're at 0.0058. I think part of that is because just Ethereum just took a rocket ship up, leaving all the alts behind. I mean, nothing this week. Well, I shouldn't say nothing. There's probably some token out there, but Ethereum was leading the way for sure.
Yep.
We're going to probably, I mean, this is what I think, Wack. We're going to see the Bitcoin and Ethereum lead over the coming months. At some point, there'll be a tailwind where alts will come up from behind and start rallying as well. But I think we're probably still in like the big blue chips leading the way for the short term, and then perhaps at the a more mature time in the bull market, we'll see the alts catch up and perhaps surpass the bigger guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I honestly have no idea like what's going on because I think back to the day where Bitcoin got approved for its ETFs, and the way that worked was, you know, ETH pumped more than Bitcoin, and then the ETH beta tokens pumped more than ETH did on that day. RPL got its 25% increase; it went up to $37, and that was amazing, right? So I thought something similar to that would play out again, where ETH would get a pump, but then ETH betas would get a bigger pump. Now, some of them did get a bigger pump, like Lido's LDO got a huge pump. It actually pumped more than ETH did. There are a few others that pumped really well as well, but then there's some that didn't pump as well, which is like RPL is one of them. So even though on that we went up in dollar terms, like up over 10%, we didn't necessarily pump in the same way against ETH, which was a little bit disappointing. Yeah, if you put ETH on that chart as well, you can see that it actually did well over the last 7 days. Yeah,
Just
and
for
then
Lido. We're looking at Lido.
yeah,
Yeah, so Lido's well, overnight they went up 15%. I don't know what
yeah.
happened there.
So
But
Lido,
Lido was in a bad spot just a week ago, if I recall. They
that's
had a
right. Yeah,
major decline.
yeah. So Lido was having a rough time of it, but I think Lido's responded well to this ETF news better than the RPL token has. So let's just wait. Like, hopefully, it'll be our turn next or soon. But I have no idea what's going to happen. Like, I don't know
No.
what's going to.
I think that's the honest answer. Is like nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yep, exactly.
But that's why we have a podcast. We like to tell people what could happen and give people hopium, right? And
Yeah.
that's why people tune in. The last news, little rocket pool news here. With all this going on with ETFs and Fit 21 and everything going on in the regulatory world, we had a announcement by Langers, general manager for Rocket Pool, says we're disappointed to announce that we're going to have to delay Houston till June 17th. Honolulu, is that how you say it? Honolulu.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, I can't pronounce it.
That's okay.
But Honolulu, can I say just Honolulu like Hawaii?
If you want, you can take it up
I'll
with
say
him.
Honolulu. Call it Hawaii.
Hello.
Honolulu.
Yeah.
Found a little bug. The bug allowed a delegate to grief their delegatees by preventing them from overriding their vote if they disagree with the delegate. So this was a good catch. We had 3 audit firms look over this back and forth with a fine-tooth comb. They didn't find this bug, but Honolulu did. So this bug's being fixed. I think it's on testnet now. They're going to have to be audited. So it's going to delay. The release was going to be June 4th, and now it's June 17th.
It's been audited already, and now it's already deployed to testnet. So Sigma Prime had a look at it. The team put the fix in already. Sigma Prime has looked at it already, and it's already on testnet as well. So they moved fast on getting it looked at and fixed. But now it just means that it needs to be tested on the Leshki for a little while longer. It kind of resets the testing clock, right? So now it just needs another few days of extra testing, which means that Houston's been pushed back another 2 weeks. So the original release date was supposed to be May 6th. Now it's been pushed like again and again, like twice now. So it's 6 weeks later than we expected.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this will be the last one. And we're going to plan a show in the next week or two where we're going to just focus on what is Houston, what's it going to bring, what are the benefits, why should we get excited about this, what are the downstream effects for like node set, and we'll hope to bring that to you in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Do you have any wins for this week?
I think if anyone says anything other than the ETF stuff and like the political changes, there must be something really, really big, because it doesn't really get much bigger than that. I think like Monday afternoon when the news dropped that things were changing, it was just like euphoria and like jubilation. It was just amazing. Like that was as big a win as you're gonna get in crypto. So I think that has to.
So that is obviously the big win of the week. I was thinking, I do have a win, and it was regarding with some of the drama that occurred this week with Nashua in our Discord. Nashua is a prominent community member, super smart, mega brain, but Nashua has in the team have had friction over the last few years, and it reminded me of, I have a neighbor, literally a good friend of mine across the street. His name's Dan. And Nashua reminded me of Dan. And here's why. Dan has been going to city council meetings since 1960. And he's that guy. He is at every meeting, council meeting, every planning board meeting, every zoning variance. He is there. He's at city hall like several times a week. Everybody there knows him. He's cordial. He's friendly, but he's firm, and he holds people accountable. And I agree with him on 2/3 of everything, what he does. And he's got balls of steel, this guy. He'll talk to anybody, but he's cordial. He's never hostile or anything like that. But if you're in City Hall, you consider Dan a menace, because Dan is like, oh, this guy again, and if he's one of those guys where like, yeah, you know what, he's right, but man, this guy, can he just get a life? Or but anyways, the city is better because of Dan, the net positive, right? And I think Nashua is kind of in the same way. He's there. He's always poking. He's got good ideas. Some of them are adopted, some of them are not. But he keeps people accountable. And sometimes that can be frustrating if you're on the team, you're really busy, and you got this guy. He's always like, man, he drives me up the wall. But all in all, it's a net positive, I think, for Rockapole that we have people like Nashua holding people accountable, creating some friction. I think that's healthy, to be honest with you. I don't think we should have the community should just be a bunch of yes men for the team. And there should be a little bit of friction, and Nashua provides it. So my win is for Nashua. I know he drives he drives some of the team crazy, but we are all better off with him than without him. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, Nashua's great.
Yeah.
He his contributions to the community are unquestionable, and it's I like your little kind of analogy, or like so that's cool.
Yeah, Dan and I actually we share the same birthday too. Yeah, he's a lot older than I am. Yeah, I don't know how he's done it all these years. Like, oh my gosh, you deserve a medal. So anyways, that wraps up today's show. Thanks for listening and watching. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate you tuning in. Wack, thanks for joining us. You are on the road. We had some technical difficulties there halfway through the show, but hopefully we'll be able to edit everything just right. We'll see. Anyways, good luck to everyone. We'll see you next week, and take care, Wack.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.